Basically, we have Death Zone in the series. So, yeah, that's the answer to everything, even to Immortals. Fascinating. Who knew time-lapse would be the answer to all problems, and we just now learn about it? If it was told earlier, I would think this is well planned. As debatable as it is to insert this new plot thread, it certainly caters a lot to this, as it appears to be the end game for all kinds. The chapter has decent build with one that isn't newly established, but I think it tried too hard to make it end all be all. I will begin with the positive. The flashback is decent. The setting is when Anna jumped timeline to when Layla finished the gate opening procedure. It consists of decent interaction between the same bloodlines. It pretty much established on how Anna managed to get the message across the multiple timeline up to the point with Layla. So it's a job well done on Layla, especially how she wants to end the responsibility before Lucy. That's kind of her. There's this explanation on time-lapse, and yes, it is the key to end all problems. Little did I know it would actually be that without exaggerating. Supposedly, it appears from the crossing of the gate from 400 years ago, in which led to cause a distortion in fabric of time itself. Look, I understand a multiple time jump storyline has this logic come in play, but again, it should have left a note. Time-lapse is nothingness, so how about tossing Archaeologia in there? It is really small as well, so that way you can't say, haha, no one can find it, but the writer did. It's funny on how easy it does sound like. Though I did chuckle at Ichiya explaining the plan, in which ends with him shouting, "Man!" It would be an odd punchline to end one of the final villains. Could you just imagine that? The more interesting point is the hype of opening the Book of End, mainly because this is actually built up for a while. So I am more invested with this turn of event. It is desperate times calls for desperate measure moment. So this one I look forward to the most. Gray does remind us the plan that Zeref secretly has, which it did get me curious until later on. That said, the hype is good. The chapter isn't visually spectacular, but it was nice to see the flashback for their younger self of certain characters and how it ties in before the actual story begins. At least we got to see Anna's point of view. It largely focusing on explanation on time lapse. So essentially, this chapter is more of a build-up than anything else. That all said, I have to say not much has brought into the table. By that I mean not enough to be convinced on his planning. In fact, there are two moments that just seemed like a joke that actually got me talking with the chapter. For example, when Layla read the book of Anna's, she couldn't understand on why Anna came to her time, which pretty much brushed aside for the time-lapse explanation. I just said, well, because I just inserted a new plot device. It's practically a cop-out writing that really is the last minute insert to end the series before the movie or year's end. I can't be proven wrong, and I would like that, but as of now, it seems to appear that way. Another moment is with Jiao couldn't believe that no one has found it until now. Translation? It sounds like I just made up on the spot. I don't want to sound like I'm bashing, but for something so grand, you would think you would receive a heads up in order to prepare for it and be surprised. While the flashback is nice, it didn't do much to fix some of the writing hiccups. By this point, you could just accept it and move on. In an odd yet interesting, to say the least, way, Zeref does in fact explain his true plan, Neo Eclipse. Basically, it's a time reset plan where literally everything reset to the point when Zeref is mortal. Maybe we will get Fairy Tail Z from this. I do like how he doesn't even care what happens to the current world. He pretty much went meh on it. The keys are Mavis for the fairy heart and, wouldn't you know it, time lapse. How did we get so fixated on time jump? It's odd because this time lapse is such a holy grail to all things. However, it is interesting because it does cross with the situation with Archaeologia, so this could only get really messy. I guess it will end on that plot device, huh? I don't dislike this chapter, but it is odd that the time-lapse has become the center of everyone's master plan. While there are good moments with one good hype and the other is building up to something, it still leaves an iffy feeling of how it all transparent to this. There is still time for anything to come, so maybe it is early to jump to conclusion. I'm giving this chapter a 7. Maybe it's generous of me, but I still like the good moments. I still like some of the explanation and that hype for opening the Book of N. It's just that I guess some of the parts from the last chapter still feels iffy on my end because it just came out of nowhere. Even if it is based on logic of time jump thing, whatever, how a lot of stories likes to put in there, the whole distortion. I just wish I got some heads up. In fact, it doesn't have to be used for the master plan for the final bosses, and this is happening right now. You were going in without that notion, so it feels like everything just feels so easy. It reminds me of another series where all of a sudden they have the seers to do everything. It just ruins the suspense in a way. I guess that's just me, but who knows. What are your thoughts of this chapter? Is this bothering you? Maybe you probably don't care anymore. It does kind of bother me, but I'm just gonna see how this gonna plays out. Hopefully it doesn't make it that anticlimactic. The last thing we need to end on is the anticlimactic feeling, especially that I have been going through those for multiple times. Can we not have this one to do the same? And that will do it for today's review. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you like this and want more of this, subscribe to my channel and my world will be yours to stay. Until next time, take care.